Sports have the ability to bring a town, city, or country together. When, in 1966, the National Hockey League expanded beyond its original 6 teams, adding 6 new American teams, the sport of hockey was changed forever. For many hockey purists, this expansion was seen as a disgrace to the sport's history. They would be even more irate when they would bear witness to one of the expansion team's rough style of play. This team was from the city of brotherly love, but for them, there was no love lost when playing their foes. Philadelphia in the 1960s was a working-class city, rough around the edges. There was very little initial interest in the new hockey team that had come to town. But as the Philadelphia Flyers began to beat even the most venerable teams, the city took notice. Built around their French-Canadian goaltender, Bernie Parent, the team began to gather steam. In their first trip to the playoffs, they were beaten to a pulp by the aggressive St. Louis Blues. In a brawl in the last matchup of the playoff series, the Flyers were beaten so badly, many players losing their teeth and breaking multiple bones, that they resolved to never be intimidated again. This decision would change the sport forever. In their offseason, the Flyers acquired 2 new rough players, Don Saleski and Bobby Clark. The team languished for a few seasons before signing Dave Schultz, a vicious player with a penchant for enforcing a code of conduct with uppercuts and left hooks. Dave, the Hammer, Schultz, was able to intimidate opposing players through his goonish ways. He immediately, in his first season, broke records for fighting and penalty minutes. Adding Bob Kelly, known as Machine Gun Kelly, for his ability to throw out punches quickly and effectively, only made the Flyers a more feared organization. This is when, during their 1972 season, something clicked. Fighting and aggression had always existed in hockey, but never until this year was it used as a strategy to win games, and more so, never before had this strategy worked. The Flyers began to win more and more games and grow a greater and greater reputation for violence. "It's all a part of the gameplay. It's all a part of the strategy," said Bob Kelly. "We're just going to go out there and annihilate people. We'll render them ineffective, and we're going to win the game." Headline writer Pete Shaffoon took note and penned the lasting nickname for the team, the Broad Street Bullies, named after the street where the Flyers arena was located. During this season, the Broad Street Bullies tallied a whopping 600 more penalty minutes than the next highest team did. In this season, which was their first winning season, 5 Flyers registered more than 30 goals. In the 1973-1974 season, goaltender Bernie Parent returned from a 2-year stint with the Toronto Maple Leafs, polished and ready to assume the role of the last crucial piece in a winning organization. The Flyers were nearly unstoppable this season. In the playoffs, they beat an Original Six team, the first time an expansion team beat an Original Six team in a playoff series. They went on to win their first Stanley Cup, inciting hockey mania in Philadelphia. The rough around the edges Philadelphia Flyers were a perfect fit in the blue-collar city of Philly, which was starved for a national championship of any type. They would go on to win the next year's championship as well. In 1976, the Flyers would cement themselves in the annals of world history forever. The USSR Red Army hockey team had made a 2-week North American tour where they beat all 3 of the premier US and Canada teams they had faced. The only scheduled game remaining was against the Flyers. Suddenly, a team which had incited rage and hatred in almost every city they traveled to had the unwavering support of the country. Clarence Campbell, the NHL president at the time, who quite publicly admonished the Flyers for their violent tactics, now sat in their locker room impressing upon the team how important it is for them to win.
"If we win, I'm going to be sky high, and if we lose, I think it'll be worse than dying."
It only took half of the first period, about 10 minutes, for the Russian coach to pull his team off the ice. So disgusted by the flagrant violence, the coach refused to let his team play until he was told they would not be paid if they didn't finish the game. So back on the ice the Russians went. 17 seconds after the game resumed, the Flyers scored. They would eventually go on to win the game 4-1. This game was a monumental event in U.S.-Russian relations throughout the Cold War. After the 1975 season, the rules were changed in hockey to discourage this type of play the Flyers were so famous for, and in the next playoff, the Montreal Canadiens beat the Flyers in a very symbolic series. For many hockey fans, this marked the end of the play style the Flyers were so famous for and the end of the win through violence strategy that the Flyers inspired in themselves and in other teams who wanted to win just like them. Though Philadelphia has not won another Stanley Cup since, the 2 seasons where they reigned supreme changed the sport of hockey forever and made for one of the most entertaining sagas in sports history.